Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today we're talking about Catherine Full Body. This is an interesting experience and it's kind of going to take a little bit of time to explain what's going on in this game. Just off the base, the first impressions about this game, there's just so much style and flair and personality and uniqueness and all of those other synonyms that I can possibly say. It is made by a company called Atlas, and so if you've ever played a Persona game, you kind of know what to expect here in terms of that like flair, that style. It just oozes like a coolness effect to it. I don't really know how to describe it, but definitely look up some video. Just for reference sake, because it does something interesting that a lot of games struggle to do, and that is in terms of storytelling and cinematography. There's a lot of times where you are watching cutscenes in this game. Like half of the game is you watching these 3D animated cutscenes with the in-game assets, and it's just interesting because normally when you are watching these cinematics in a video game, the camera is pretty stationary, right? But in this game, it takes the camera and it points it in interesting directions, interesting angles, like as if you were watching some sort of movie. It takes that cinematography knowledge and adds it into this game. Now, the 3D video game asset cinematics are a lot of what you will be viewing in this game to get the story, but the other part of it is these like animated scenes, which I absolutely love. I'm just a sucker for the anime cutscenes. That's the reason why I really like Ni no Kuni. It always just feels like a neat reward for accomplishing any challenge that a video game throws at you when you have one of these animated cutscenes to look forward to. And that's basically what this game is. Like half of it is you are watching a very light interactive story being played out here. You don't have a whole lot to say as far as the narrative of this game goes, but the other half is a puzzle-based game where you are pushing blocks around. So that's mainly what you will be interacting with. They're basically like these pyramids made out of blocks, and you are playing as a character named Vincent, and whenever he goes to bed, he has these nightmares of him climbing these block pyramids. The rules and the physics of it take a little while to get used to. Blocks can hover as long as they are sharing one edge with another block, and you can pull blocks around and you can hang on the edges, and different blocks have different properties. I'm not going to get into a full tutorial here. Just know that the system really builds upon itself, pun intended, and you just kind of have to wrap your mind around how to manipulate these blocks in order to create these staircases for Vincent to climb up and eventually wake up from his nightly nightmares. I'm not a huge fan of puzzle games. Typically, I only play them every once in a blue moon, but I did like how this one made me feel really smart, and it was a really fair challenge. I played on normal difficulty. By default, it wanted me to play on easy, but I always just play on normal, so I wasn't quite sure which one they wanted beginners to start out as. But I played normal, and for the first half of the game, I would get by just fine. You know, there's a couple rules. It ranks you at the end. You have undos, and you can retry, and you collect coins, and there's a lot that go into play on how you get ranked at the end of each challenge, each level. And I would always get silver, and then it seemed around the 3/4 mark, I hit this wall, and I would struggle a lot with some of these challenges. Not necessarily all of them, but it was very, very rare that I got over a bronze medal for the last fourth of the game. It was always bronze. I would have to retry quite a lot. I felt very, very challenged, but I did feel really, really smart when I finally had accomplished that beast and I was able to progress on. Kind of like the same satisfaction if you were to solve like a Sudoku puzzle. There's even certain techniques that you learn by collaborating with these other like NPC characters in between each of these stage levels. You'll share techniques with them on how to manipulate these blocks, and you just kind of learn as you go along. I wonder if I was to go back to some of the earlier levels if I would be able to achieve a gold rank, because all of the techniques that I've learned over the whole gameplay. One thing that gets really annoying about this puzzle aspect in this game, though, every time you line up a block and it mashes the edge with another block, the game will just say edge, edge, edge. So over and over again, I'm playing this level all the time. time edge, edge, edge. And I don't think it was ever necessarily beneficial for me. Maybe there is some sort of like pro knowledge to be gained when you hear the word edge, but I just learned to kind of tune it out because it was just going constantly. I even saw online it's kind of become a meme for this game. During the final round of each night when you are waking up from your nightmare, you are chased by these terrifying monsters. I can't even begin to explain. You'll just have to look it up yourself. But like, they're usually things that are haunting Vincent in real life during the day before he goes to bed. So in one of this, I can't say it because there's too many spoilers here. But typically, what you find out during the day is what's going to haunt you at night, and these things are terrifying. So let's talk about the other half of the game during the day. As far as the theme goes, you can kind of tell from the thumbnail of this video, but it is a very suggestive game, and sex is a very big part of the narrative here. So, you know, really, really strong language, F-bombs being dropped all the time. It is a very, very mature game. Do not buy this game for your children if you're not ready to have some very adult conversations here. But essentially, Vincent, our main character, is finding himself trapped in a love triangle, whether it was on his own fault or whether he was just pushed in this scenario. I'll let you decide, but he is basically trying to hide each of the women in his life from the other women. One of the frustrating things about these, the narrative part of this game is there's this annoying watermark in the top left corner, no matter what, and it says Golden Playhouse Special, and it is always there whenever you're watching a cinematic of any kind, be it anime or the 3D in-game asset cinematics. It's always there, and I have no idea why. They just, I think at the beginning of the game and the very end of the game, they kind of set it up like you are watching a TV show episode, so I think they wanted to really reinforce that idea of you just watching this episode, because it does kind of play out like a trashy reality show, you know, like, oh, how's Vincent gonna get out of this one? You know, Catherine's sure to find out. Just so you kind of understand the whole wordplay in this game, Catherine is the name of each of these female characters in his life. There's Catherine with a K, Catherine with a C, and Catherine with a Q? Don't tell me how that makes any sense. I guess they just really needed to find another way to spell Catherine. I had subtitles on the whole time, so it wasn't complicated for me to follow along who he's talking about, but I could see why there would be a lot of mix-up here. It's all voice acted, and the voice actors in this game are really, really talented. It felt like I was actually watching a TV show. It never felt like that cheap gamification. You know, I never really got that from here because of the cinematography, because of the vocal performances. It was all really well done, and if I'm not mistaken, this is an older game, like, dare I guess, maybe PlayStation 2, and it was brought back for the Nintendo Switch. So in some cases it does show its age, but most of it are in-game assets. Like Vincent, his phone is a pink Razr. For those of you who are under 20 years old, you probably have no idea what a Razr phone even is, so that's one way that it shows its age. I wonder how this story would play out in the day and age of social media. I didn't talk about this earlier because I was just raving about the cinematography, but one of the big gripes about watching these 3D in-game cinematics are the eyes. Now, this may not seem like a big deal, but for some reason, whenever Vincent was looking at something, like this was especially noticeable when his eyes were really wide, like when he was really nervous, but it just seems like his pupils are going off in different directions. I didn't notice it as much for other characters, but for Vincent in particular, his eyes just don't line up, and it looks really, really weird. And one of the light interactive parts during the daytime when you aren't doing these puzzles, you are mostly hanging out at Vincent's favorite hangout place, which is a bar, and you are free to walk around this bar and interact with characters. Sometimes they will ask you questions and you have to reply with whatever you think, and then this little morality bar will appear whether you are answering red. I assume this represents like being naughty. Like sometimes there are clear bad or good answers depending on how you want to be naughty or nice, and this morality system will reflect that. Other times it's a little more obscure. You're not necessarily sure where the bar on this morality system will go depending on how you answer. This also reflects in the nightmares itself, because in the middle of each of the levels, while you're climbing up this tower trying to break out of this nightmare, one of the guys in this like confession booth will ask you questions, and this will also affect that morality meter. It's a really bonkers game, and I have never really played anything like it. It definitely left an impression on me, and it's not anything that I will forget anytime soon. Just like how the whole gameplay and then the really long cinematics take place, you know, I didn't really mind the long cinematics during the daytime. It just felt like it was a nice little reward for doing the puzzles, but these cinematics would go for a very, very long time. I have my Switch setting where it will start dimming and then eventually go to sleep after maybe 2 minutes, and just watching these long cinematics, I would have to wake my Switch up because it would turn itself off because I'm not pressing any buttons for a very, very long time, and I could see why that would be frustrating for some people who just want to get into the puzzle gameplay, but I was hooked on the story. You know, I found myself not relating to Vincent that much because he is a character who is very afraid of commitment. He may act a little more immaturely than I will. I got married at a very, very young age, so we are just completely different characters. And in a way, by how Vincent was making these choices, I just felt like I didn't have any direct influence on how the story would play out, aside from these little questions that it would ask me from time to time. And I think the only thing that those questions affect are how the very, very end game plays out. I don't think anything leading up to that point is influenced in any way by my decisions. So there was definitely like a disconnect there. Going into this, I thought this would be like a Telltale game where I was manipulating how the story plays out, but it's not really that way. It's more like Vincent is making these decisions, and then I kind of have to deal with the repercussions of these decisions. I did like how my ending played out, though, and I want to believe that my decisions played a part in that. I'm willing to bet that the decisions you make affect which Catherine you end up with at the end, but I have no basis on that. I've only seen my own ending. You know, while it's not normally a game that I would pick up and play, I'm glad that I did give this game the chance that it deserves. It was a really weird game, and sometimes I wasn't having an amazing time or anything like that, but I can honestly say that the whole time, both the cinematic narrative side of it during the day and the puzzle-solving block tower climbing during the night, I was just always engaged the whole time, and it's just such a unique experience, and that deserves to be recognized. I think I will give this game a 4 out of 5. If you are over the age of 18, I definitely want to reinforce that. Definitely give this game a shot, and it's just a unique experience. It's always fun to see developers take games in unique places, and Atlas certainly did that here. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Catherine Full Body, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll talk to you later. Bye!